Zix'thar stood in the sterile white briefing room of the Galactic Exchange Program headquarters, his three-fingered hands trembling slightly as he read the assignment notice for the third time. The words hadn't changed, but he kept hoping they would. Assignment: Cultural Exchange, Birth, Solder 3. Classification: Deathworld, Class 4. Duration: 30 local rotations. Survival probability: 78%. 78%. That meant there was a genuine chance he wouldn't come back alive. From a cultural exchange program. "You look concerned," said Administrator Qel, her smooth purple skin shimmering under the fluorescent lights. She was a Valerian, one of the oldest and most successful spacefaring species in the galaxy. Her people had been exploring the cosmos for 12,000 years. If she said Earth was dangerous, it was dangerous. Concerned. Zix repeated, his translator chip rendering his clicks and whistles into galactic standard. "Administrator, this classification says Earth is a class for Deathworld. I'm a xenobiologist from Keph, a Class 0 garden world. Our most dangerous predator is the size of your smallest finger. We have weather control. Our bacteria are friendly. Our gravity is 62% of galactic standard. I'm aware of your planet's comfortable conditions," Qel said diplomatically. "Then you understand why sending me to a death world is essentially a death sentence." Qel's expression softened. "Zix, you were specifically requested by the humans. Your dissertation on adaptive biology in extreme environments was apparently quite popular on their academic networks. They want to meet you. They're excited about it." "Of course they're excited," Zix said miserably. "They live on a death world. They probably think it's normal." "They do," Qel confirmed. "Which is precisely why this exchange program is so important. We need to understand them, Zix. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for only 8 standard years, and in that time they've complicated things." "Complicated how?" Qel pulled up a holographic display. Images flickered in the air between them, humans doing things that made Zix's respiratory system spasm in sympathetic horror. A human child, no more than a juvenile, hanging by its manipulator appendages from a metal bar suspended high above the ground. Apparently for fun. A human ingesting a liquid so caustic it was literally steaming. Humans running. Not from predators, but voluntarily, for distances that would kill most species through simple exhaustion. A human engaging in recreational combat with another human while others watched and cheered. "They're insane," Zix whispered. "They're adapted," Qel corrected. "Earth is a class for Deathworld, Zix. That means it's actively hostile to most known forms of life. High gravity. Extreme temperature variations. A chemically aggressive atmosphere with 21% oxygen." 21%. Zix interrupted, his voice rising an octave. That's explosive. That's a fire hazard just waiting to happen." "Yes. And yet humans breathe it every moment of every day. They need it. Their biology is built around it." Zix sat down heavily, his legs suddenly feeling weak. "What else should I know?" Qel's expression became even more serious. "Earth rotates on a tilted axis, which creates seasonal variations. The planet has active plate tectonics, causing frequent seismic events. Weather patterns include electrical storms capable of generating billions of volts. The gravity is 96% of galactic standard, which will be uncomfortable for you. Water falls from the sky regularly. Sometimes it freezes while falling. Sometimes the wind moves so fast it tears structures apart. And humans just live there? On purpose. They evolved there, Zix. They don't know anything else. To them, these conditions are normal. Comfortable, even. Zix looked at the survival probability again. 78%. That meant roughly 1 in 5 exchange participants didn't return from Earth. What happens to the 22% who don't survive? He asked quietly. Quel hesitated. Most deaths are accidental. Participants underestimate the danger. They assume their environmental suits will protect them from everything. They take unnecessary risks. And some, Quel said slowly, encounter Earth's wildlife unprepared. Zix felt his chromatic organs flare bright yellow, the Kephian equivalent of going pale. The wildlife. Of course. How dangerous are we talking? Quel pulled up another series of images. Zix's 3 hearts nearly stopped. This, Quel said, indicating a creature with massive jaws filled with serrated teeth, is called a crocodile. It can remain motionless for hours, then strike with enough force to crush bone. Its bite force exceeds 12,000 newtons. Apex predator, Zix said numbly. Naturally. Oh no, Quel said. Humans swim in waters where these live. For recreation. Zix made a sound like air escaping from a pressure seal. This, Quel continued, is a hippopotamus. Despite appearing docile, it's responsible for more human deaths annually than any other large animal in its region. It can run at speeds up to 30 kilometers per hour and has tusks capable of piercing metal. And this? Zix pointed to a fuzzy creature that actually looked rather adorable. That's called a cat. Humans keep them in their dwelling spaces. As companions. It looks harmless. It's a miniature apex predator. Obligate carnivore. Retractable claws. Humans domesticated them approximately 10,000 years ago and now voluntarily share their homes with them. Zix stared at the image of the cat, currently being held by a small human child who looked utterly delighted. They let their juveniles near predators. That's not even the concerning part, Quel said. The concerning part is what they did before they domesticated cats. What did they do? They domesticated wolves. Zix's translator actually glitched trying to process his response. When it recovered, all it could produce was, "I'm sorry, what?" Wolves. Pack hunters. Apex predators with cooperative hunting strategies and bite forces capable of crushing bone. Humans looked at them and decided they wanted them as companions. They've been selectively breeding them for 15,000 years. They call the result dogs. This is a joke, Zix said weakly. This is some kind of hazing ritual for new exchange participants. I'm afraid not. Would you like to know what humans consider a pet hamster? No. No, I would not. Quel closed the holographic display. Zix, I won't lie to you. Earth is dangerous. It's dangerous in ways most species can't even conceptualize because they didn't evolve in an environment actively trying to kill them. But humans have specifically requested you. They've prepared accommodations. They've assigned you a guide, a human student named Sarah Chen who's studying xenobiology. They're genuinely excited to host you. How do I prepare for 30 days on a Deathworld? Zix asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You study. You train. You remember that billions of humans live on that planet every single day and they're fine. You trust your environmental suit. And most importantly, Quel leaned forward, you remember that humans are people too. Strange, resilient, bafflingly adaptable people, but people nonetheless. They're not trying to hurt you. They genuinely want to share their world with you. Zix looked at the assignment notice one more time. 78% survival probability. He thought about his dissertation, the one that had apparently impressed the humans so much. He'd written about how life adapts to extreme conditions, how biology finds ways to thrive in the most unlikely places. The humans were living proof of his theories. They were the ultimate expression of adaptive biology. And they wanted to meet him. "When do I leave?" Zix asked. Quel smiled, a gesture she'd learned from humans, actually. "Transport departs in 6 standard hours. I suggest you use that time to review the Earth Survival Manual. All 17 volumes. 17 volumes. We had to be thorough. Earth is complicated." Zix stood, his legs still shaky but his decision made. "Then I'd better start reading." As he left the briefing room, Quel called after him, "Zix? One more thing." He turned. "Don't pet the animals without asking first. No matter how friendly they seem." "Noted," Zix said. "Absolutely noted." The descent through Earth's atmosphere was the most terrifying experience of Zix's life, and he'd once accidentally activated an airlock while inside it. The transport shook. It rattled. It made sounds that no spacecraft should ever make while still being classified as functional. Through the viewport, he could see the atmospheric entry creating a glowing halo around the ship. "This is normal," the pilot said calmly. She was human, of course. Apparently, humans loved flying through their own deadly atmosphere so much that they did it professionally. "This is normal." Zix managed to squeak out. "Oh yeah. Just a little turbulence. Wait until you experience your first thunderstorm. Now that's exciting." Zix decided he would not be experiencing any thunderstorms if he could possibly avoid it. The planet below was beautiful in a terrifying sort of way. Massive white swirls of clouds, water vapor, according to his briefing materials, actual water just floating in the sky waiting to fall on unsuspecting beings below. Blue oceans covering most of the surface. Brown and green landmasses that shifted and changed as the ship descended. "First time to Earth?" the pilot asked cheerfully. "First time to any Deathworld," Zix admitted. She laughed. It was apparently a positive sound, though Zix's instincts interpreted any display of teeth as threatening. "That's what everyone says. Don't worry. You're landing at the university campus in New Zealand. That's one of the safer locations." "Safer than what?" "Australia." She said it the way one might reference a black hole or a supernova. With a sort of respectful terror. "What's in Australia?" Zix asked, not sure he wanted to know. "Everything that wants to kill you, mostly. But you're not going there, so you're fine." This was not as reassuring as she seemed to think it was. The transport landed with a gentle bump. Through the viewport, Zix could see a flat expanse of what the briefing materials had called concrete, an artificial stone humans created by mixing various minerals. Beyond that, buildings of metal and glass. Vegetation, actual growing plants, completely uncontrolled, just growing wherever they wanted. And in the distance, formations that made his breath catch. Mountains. Real, natural mountains, created by the planet's crust literally colliding with itself over millions of years. "Welcome to Earth," the pilot said. "Try not to die." Zix checked his environmental suit 3 times before the airlock opened. The suit would regulate the gravity to something closer to Keph normal, filter the dangerously oxygen-rich air down to breathable levels, and maintain his body temperature in the face of whatever extreme conditions waited outside. The airlock door opened. And nothing immediately tried to kill him. This was already going better than expected. The air that filtered through his suit's processors smelled strange. Complex. His briefing materials had mentioned this. Earth's atmosphere carried thousands of different scent molecules from all the various life forms producing chemicals constantly. It was overwhelming. A figure approached from the nearby building. Bipedal. Approximately 1.7 meters tall. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Mammalian. Human. Zix'thar, the human, called out. "Hi. I'm Sarah Chen. I'll be your guide during your stay." She was smiling. Zix reminded himself that for humans, showing teeth was a positive social gesture, not a threat display. "Hello," Zix said, his translator rendering his nervous clicks into galactic standard. "Thank you for hosting me." Sarah came closer, and Zix tried not to panic. She was taller than him. Most humans were, he'd learned. Adapted to high gravity meant they tended toward compact, muscular builds. She wore what his briefing materials identified as casual clothing, fabric coverings that served both thermal regulation and cultural purposes. "How was your trip?" Sarah asked. "Terrifying," Zix answered honestly. She laughed again. Zix was going to have to get used to that sound. "Yeah, atmospheric entry is pretty intense the first time. Come on, let me show you to your quarters. We've set up a special habitat module for you, gravity-controlled, atmosphere-regulated, the works. You'll be comfortable." As they walked toward the buildings, Zix noticed something that his briefing materials hadn't fully prepared him for. The sky. It was blue. Not the black of space or the amber of Keph's atmosphere, but blue. A brilliant, impossible blue that seemed to stretch forever. And in it, fluffy white formations drifted slowly by. "Those are clouds," Sarah said, noticing his upward gaze. "Water vapor." "Pretty, right?" "There's water in the sky," Zix said numbly. "Well, yeah. It evaporates from the oceans and lakes, forms clouds, then eventually falls back down as rain. It's called the water cycle. Very important for maintaining life on the planet." "It just falls? From the sky?" "Without warning. Usually there's some warning. Weather forecasts and all that. But sometimes, yeah, surprise rain." She grinned. "You'll love your first rainstorm." "Everyone does." Zix seriously doubted that. They entered the building, and the change in environment was immediate. Climate-controlled. Stable. More like a proper civilized space station. Zix's tension eased slightly. "So," Sarah said as they walked down a corridor, "I read your dissertation. The stuff about extremophile adaptation was fascinating. We actually have extremophiles here on Earth too. Organisms that live in volcanic vents, frozen Antarctic ice, even in acid pools. Life finds a way, you know." "Yes," Zix said, warming to the topic despite his fear. "That's the central thesis of my work. Life adapts to fill every available niche, no matter how extreme." "Exactly. That's why everyone was so excited when you accepted the exchange. We want to compare notes. See how life on different worlds tackles similar challenges." They reached a door marked with galactic standard symbols. Sarah pressed her palm against a scanner, and the door slid open. "Here we are. You're home for the next month." The habitat was actually quite nice. The gravity felt immediately different, lighter, more comfortable. The air smelled familiar. There were rest platforms, work surfaces, entertainment systems, even a food processor programmed with Kephian dietary requirements. "I hope it's okay," Sarah said, suddenly sounding uncertain. "We tried to match Keph environmental standards as closely as possible." "It's perfect," Zix said, genuinely touched. Thank you. Great. So, I was thinking for your first day we could take it easy. Just a tour of the campus. Nothing too intense. Maybe the botanical gardens? They're really beautiful, and they're enclosed, so the environment is controlled. Zix'thar's translator didn't have a word for the feeling he was experiencing. Relief mixed with gratitude mixed with the continued low-level terror of being on a Deathworld. But underneath all of that, something else. Curiosity. He was on Earth. The Deathworld that had produced humans. The most bafflingly resilient species in the known galaxy. And they wanted to show him their botanical gardens. I would like that, Zix said. Thank you, Sarah. She smiled again, and this time, Zix didn't find it quite so threatening. Awesome. Let me know when you're settled in, and we'll head out. Oh, and Zix. Yes? Welcome to Earth. I promise it's not as scary as it seems. Zix looked out the window at the alien blue sky, the uncontrolled vegetation, the distant mountains created by planetary violence. He wasn't sure he believed her. But he was willing to find out. Zix had reviewed the Earth Survival Manual section on plant life 3 times before agreeing to visit the botanical gardens. The warnings had been extensive. Many Earth plants produce toxins as defense mechanisms. Do not touch unfamiliar vegetation. Some plants can cause dermal reactions even through environmental suits. Certain pollens are considered weapons-grade irritants by 17 different species. The cassava plant contains cyanide. Poison ivy causes severe inflammatory responses. The manchineel tree is so dangerous that standing under it during rain can cause burns. And humans grew these plants. For fun. In gardens. You ready? Sarah asked, waiting outside his habitat module. Zix checked his environmental suit one more time. All systems green. Atmosphere filters functioning. Gravity regulators online. Medical sensors monitoring his 3 hearts, respiratory systems, and neural functions. As ready as I'll ever be, he said. They walked across the campus, and Zix tried not to panic at everything he saw. Other humans. Dozens of them. Just walking around like they weren't on a Deathworld. Some were even running, voluntarily moving at speeds that would exhaust most species within minutes. The humans are exercising. Zix asked. Yeah, that's the track team practicing. They're training for a marathon. What's a marathon? A 42-kilometer run. Zix stopped walking. I'm sorry, 42 kilometers? That's not possible. The lactic acid build-up alone would. Humans are persistence hunters, Sarah explained. We evolved to chase prey over long distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. 42 kilometers is challenging, but definitely doable. The current world record is just over 2 hours. 2 hours, Zix repeated faintly. To run 42 kilometers. Well, yeah. Elite athletes are pretty incredible. They continued walking, and Zix noticed something else strange. The humans kept looking at him, quick glances, some curious, some excited. A few even waved, another human greeting gesture. They're not afraid, Zix observed. Of you? Why would they be? Sarah looked genuinely confused. I'm an alien. An unknown life form. I could be dangerous. Sarah laughed. Zix, you're like a meter tall and you look like a fuzzy blue teddy bear. No offense, but you're adorable, not scary. Zix's chromatic organs flushed orange, the Kephian equivalent of blushing. I'm a sentient being with advanced technology and complex cognitive capabilities. a sentient being who squeaked when he saw a pigeon earlier. That creature had wings. It was engaging in unpowered flight. That's terrifying. It's a bird, Zix. They're literally everywhere. As if to prove her point, several more birds flew overhead. Zix tracked them nervously, wondering if any were predatory species preparing to attack. They reached the botanical gardens, and Sarah led him through a set of double doors into a climate-controlled atrium. And despite himself, despite his fear, despite being on a Deathworld surrounded by creatures adapted to survive in an environment that would kill most known life forms, it was beautiful. The space soared upward, glass panels creating a dome overhead that let in natural light, actual sunlight, from Earth's yellow star. Plants grew in carefully arranged sections, labeled with both scientific names and common human designations. This is the tropical section, Sarah explained. Temperature and humidity are controlled to match equatorial regions on Earth. Zix looked at the temperature reading, 28 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to be uncomfortable even for humans. And things live in this heat, he asked. Thrive in it, actually. Look. She pointed to a massive flower, easily half a meter across, colored in deep reds and purples. That's a Rafflesia. It's a parasitic plant that produces the largest flower on Earth. It's also called the corpse flower because it smells like rotting meat to attract pollinating insects. It smells like death to lure insects to their doom. Zix asked. Well, not their doom exactly. The insects get covered in pollen, fly to another Rafflesia, and pollinate it. Everyone wins. Except the insect, which is now covered in death smell. Sarah grinned. Okay, yeah, the insect probably isn't thrilled about it. They walked deeper into the gardens, and Sarah pointed out various species. Each one seemed more impossible than the last. A Venus flytrap that moved to catch insects. An actual plant that hunted prey. A bamboo plant that could grow a meter in a single day. A cactus covered in spines so sharp they could pierce environmental suits. Humans grow these on purpose. Zix asked after the 10th deadly plant. Sure. I mean, you have to be careful with some of them, but they're fascinating. Besides, most plants aren't dangerous if you're respectful and careful. Most. Well, there are a few you really don't want to mess with. But those aren't usually in botanical gardens. They entered a different section, temperate climate. The temperature dropped to something more comfortable, around 20 degrees Celsius. The plants here were less aggressively bizarre. These are more familiar, Zix said, relaxing slightly. Simple photosynthetic organisms using chlorophyll to convert solar radiation into chemical energy. Standard carbon-based biochemistry. Yep. Though there's still some interesting stuff. Look at this. Sarah led him to a plant with delicate white flowers. The label read, Aconitum napellus. Common name, wolfsbane. This plant, Sarah said cheerfully, is one of the most poisonous in the world. Every part of it contains aconitine, which can cause cardiac arrest. In medieval Europe, people used to tip arrows with its extract to hunt wolves. You have a plant so deadly you used it as a weapon. Zix backed away slowly. Had. Past tense. We don't hunt with poison arrows anymore. Now we mostly just appreciate it for its flowers. She leaned closer to smell them. You're putting your respiratory organs near a poison plant. The smell isn't dangerous. Just the actual plant material. Besides, it's behind glass. Zix noticed for the first time that many of the more dangerous plants were indeed behind protective barriers. Someone had at least had the sense to contain the deadly flora. They continued the tour, and gradually, Zix began to relax. Yes, everything here could potentially kill him. But it wasn't actively trying to. The plants just existed. Growing. Photosynthesizing. Being plants. I have a question, Zix said eventually. Shoot. Why do humans find this relaxing? You have gardens everywhere. I've seen them in the campus plans. But these organisms are competitors for resources, some are toxic, many harbor dangerous insects or microorganisms. Why purposefully surround yourself with them? Sarah thought about this for a moment. I guess they're beautiful. And they're alive. There's something nice about being surrounded by living things, even if they're just plants. They grow and change and adapt. They're part of the ecosystem we evolved in. Being around them feels natural. Natural, Zix repeated. On Keph, nature was something carefully managed. Controlled. Gardens were precise, planned down to the molecular level. The idea of just letting plants grow, wild and unpredictable, was alien. But then again, humans were alien. Everything about Earth was alien. Want to see something really cool? Sarah asked. I'm not sure. Do I? Come on. She led him to another section where a special exhibit was set up. Through a glass barrier, Zix could see a plant with large, drooping purple flowers. Passiflora, Sarah read from the plaque. Passion flower. Watch what happens. As they observed, a small flying insect, black and yellow striped, which Zix's database identified as a bee, landed on the flower. It moved around, gathering what appeared to be yellow powder on its legs and body. That's pollen, Sarah explained. The bee is gathering food, but in the process, it's picking up pollen. When it flies to the next flower, it'll transfer that pollen, allowing the plants to reproduce. It's called pollination. Symbiosis, Zix said, understanding. The plant provides food, the insect provides reproductive assistance. Exactly. Life working together. What about the poison plants? The ones with death smells and paralyzing toxins? Sarah shrugged. Those have symbiotic relationships too. Just different kinds. The corpse flower attracts flies that help it reproduce. The poison helps the plant avoid being eaten by herbivores. Everything has a role in the ecosystem. Zix watched the bee for a long moment. It was so small, so fragile looking. And yet it flew through Earth's dangerous atmosphere, navigated between toxic and nutritious plants, served a vital role in the ecosystem. Life finds a way, Zix murmured, echoing Sarah's earlier words. Exactly. They walked for a while longer, and Zix found himself asking questions. Genuine, scientific questions about growth rates, adaptation strategies, chemical defenses, environmental tolerances. Sarah answered what she could and admitted ignorance when she didn't know. They debated theories. Compared Earth plants to Kephian flora. Discussed the role of oxygen levels in plant evolution. It was nice. Zix had almost forgotten he was on a Deathworld. Then they stepped outside, and a nearby tree exploded. Zix shrieked and dove behind Sarah, all his training forgotten in pure panic. What? What was that? Are we under attack? Sarah was laughing. Actually laughing while Zix cowered behind her. Zix, it's okay. It's just a seed pod. Look. She pointed to the tree, a large specimen labeled as an eucalyptus. On the ground around it were broken woody pods, their contents scattered across the grass. Some eucalyptus species have pods that dry out and literally explode to spread their seeds, Sarah explained. It's a dispersal mechanism. Your plants explode, Zix said weakly. Some of them, yeah. Your plants explode. It's actually really efficient for your plants explode. Sarah helped him up, still smiling. Come on. Let's get you back to your habitat. I think that's enough botany for one day. As they walked back across campus, Zix tried to process everything he'd learned. Earth plants produced poison. They smelled like death. They moved. They hunted. They exploded. And humans thought they were pretty. Sarah, he asked quietly. Yeah? How do you live like this? Everything here is dangerous. Even the plants try to kill you. How do you just walk around like it's normal? Sarah considered this seriously. I guess it is normal. For us. We evolved here. Our bodies, our instincts, our whole way of thinking, it's all adapted to Earth. What seems deadly to you is just Tuesday to us. Tuesday is your word for a day of the week, correct? Yep. So you're saying a Deathworld level danger is equivalent to an ordinary day? Pretty much. Zix made a sound like steam escaping a pressure valve. You're all insane. Maybe, Sarah agreed cheerfully. But we're friendly insane. And hey, you survived your first real Earth experience. The botanical gardens claim another 0 casualties. That's got to feel good. It did, actually. Zix had confronted his fears, learned about Earth's impossible biology, and survived a plant explosion. Not a bad first day, all things considered. Tomorrow, Sarah said as they reached his habitat, I thought we could visit the petting zoo. It's where we keep friendly animals that people can interact with safely. What kind of animals? Oh, you know. Goats, sheep, rabbits. Maybe some chickens. All herbivores, totally harmless. Zix thought about what he'd learned regarding Earth's definition of harmless. I'll need to review the safety protocols first, he said firmly. Sarah's grin widened. You're going to love Earth, Zix. I can tell. As Zix entered his habitat and sealed the door behind him, he pulled up his datapad and began recording his first log entry. Day 1 on Earth, survived. Learned that plants here explode, smell like death, and produce enough poison to kill most known life forms. Humans considered this beautiful and relaxing. Tomorrow, something called a petting zoo. Preliminary research suggests this involves direct contact with Earth fauna. May the cosmic forces have mercy on my 3 souls. He paused, then added, despite everything, the botanical gardens were actually quite lovely. In a terrifying sort of way. Outside his window, the alien blue sky was fading to shades of orange and purple as Earth's sunset. Birds, actual flying creatures, swooped through the air, hunting insects, navigating effortlessly through the dangerous atmosphere. Life. Everywhere. Adapted, thriving, completely indifferent to how deadly their world was. Zix settled onto his rest platform and accessed the survival manual, pulling up the section on Earth's fauna. He had a feeling he was going to need it. Zix spent the entire night reading about Earth's animals, and with each passing hour his terror grew. Bears that could run at speeds of 50 kilometers per hour despite weighing half a ton. Spiders that could jump 20 times their body length. Snakes that could swallow prey larger than their own heads. Jellyfish whose sting could kill in minutes. Birds that dive-bombed at speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. And those were just the wild animals. The domesticated ones were equally baffling. Horses, prey animals large enough to crush a human, which humans regularly climbed onto and rode. For transportation. For sport. For fun. Dogs, descended from pack-hunting apex predators, living in human homes, playing with human children. Cats, obligate carnivores with retractable claws, keeping humans as staff. And according to Sarah, the petting zoo contained harmless herbivores. Zix no longer trusted Sarah's definition of harmless. She arrived mid-morning, bright and cheerful, carrying what she called a backpack, a fabric container humans wore to carry supplies. "Ready for your first close encounter with Earth animals?" she asked. "No," Zix said honestly. "But I reviewed the protocols. I have emergency medical supplies. My environmental suit is rated for physical impacts up to. Zix, we're going to pet some goats, not fight a bear. Your briefing materials mentioned that all mammals carry potential pathogens. True, but the petting zoo animals are all vaccinated and regularly health checked. They're probably cleaner than I am." This was not as reassuring as she seemed to think. They walked across campus again, and Zix noticed more details this time. The way sunlight filtered through the leaves of trees. The sound of birds calling to each other, apparently communication, not attack warnings. The feel of the wind, actual moving air, not recycled through processors, carrying 1,000 different scents. The petting zoo was located on the edge of campus, a fenced area with several small structures and what the humans called enclosures. As they approached, Zix could hear sounds. Animal sounds. Bleating. Clucking. Low, rumbling noises that his translator couldn't quite categorize. "Okay," Sarah said, stopping at the entrance. "Basic rules. Move slowly. No sudden movements, it scares them. Let them approach you first. And whatever you do, don't chase the chickens." "Why would I chase the chickens?" "You'd be surprised how many people try. The chickens don't like it." They entered through a gate, and Zix found himself in a wide-open space with several animals wandering freely. The first creature he saw was approximately 1 meter tall, covered in thick woolly fur, with 4 legs and a distinctly judgmental expression. "That's a sheep," Sarah said. "Her name is Mildred. She's very friendly." Mildred looked at Zix with what appeared to be profound disdain. "I don't think she likes me," Zix whispered. "She's just cautious around new people. Here, hold out your hand, palm flat, fingers together, and let her sniff you." "Sniff." "Smell. It's how she gets information about you." Zix very slowly extended one 3-fingered hand toward Mildred. The sheep approached cautiously, her weird horizontal pupilled eyes never leaving his face. Then she pressed her nose against his hand, and Zix felt warm breath through his environmental suit sensors. She was smelling him. Gathering chemical information. It was actually quite logical when he thought about it. "Good," Sarah said softly. "Now you can pet her." Gentle strokes along her wool. Zix reached out with trembling fingers and touched the sheep's wool. It was soft. Incredibly soft. The lanolin in the wool created a slightly oily texture, but not unpleasant. Mildred made a low rumbling sound and leaned into the touch. "She likes you," Sarah said, smiling. "I'm petting a herbivore from Earth," Zix said, wonder creeping into his voice. "I'm making physical contact with alien fauna." "Well, technically you're the alien here." "True. From Mildred's perspective, I'm the strange creature invading her territory." They spent the next hour moving through the petting zoo, and with each animal encounter, Zix felt his fear ebbing away. The goats were curious and friendly, nibbling at his suit with their weird square teeth. Sarah explained that they were testing if he was edible, which should have been alarming but somehow wasn't. The rabbits were soft and gentle, their long ears twitching at every sound. One particularly brave individual hopped directly onto Zix'thar's lap and settled there, apparently deciding he made an acceptable resting place. "This is a domesticated European rabbit," Sarah explained. "Humans have been breeding them for thousands of years. Originally for food, but now mostly as companions. You ate them, and now you keep them as friends?" Zix asked, gently stroking the rabbit's impossibly soft fur. "Evolution of relationship," Sarah said with a shrug. "We don't really need to hunt for food anymore, so some animals transition from livestock to pets. Though some people still eat rabbit. It's complicated." The chickens were alarming. They moved in quick, jerky motions, their heads bobbing as they walked. When one came too close, Zix backed away nervously. "They're harmless," Sarah assured him. "Just curious." "They're descendants of dinosaurs," Zix countered, having read that particular fact last night with growing horror. "Actual dinosaurs. Earth's apex predators from millions of years ago." "Well, yeah, but these ones are about a kilogram each and mostly interested in eating grain." One of the chickens made a loud BAWK sound directly at Zix, and he jumped backward so fast he nearly tripped over a goat. Sarah was trying very hard not to laugh. "Okay, maybe we skip intensive chicken interaction today." They moved to a shaded area where larger animals were housed. And that's when Zix saw it. The horse. It was massive. Over 1.5 meters tall at the shoulder, weighing what had to be at least half a ton. Powerful muscles rippled under its glossy coat. When it moved, the ground literally vibrated. "This is Thunder," Sarah said affectionately, reaching up to pat the creature's enormous neck. "He's a retired riding horse." "Sweetheart, aren't you, boy?" Thunder lowered his head to Sarah's level, and she scratched behind his ears. The horse's eyes, large, dark, expressive, looked at Zix with what appeared to be mild interest. "You want to pet him?" Sarah asked. "That creature could kill me with a single kick," Zix said. "True. But he won't. Thunder's the gentlest horse in the stable. He used to give riding lessons to children." "Children? Your juveniles. You put your juveniles on this creature's back?" "Yep." "Come on. He's very sweet." Cautiously, with Sarah's guidance, Zix approached the massive animal. This close, he could feel the heat radiating from its body, could smell the distinctive scent of horse, hay and earth and something else, something wild despite the domestication. Thunder lowered his head even more, bringing his massive face level with Zix. The nostrils flared, drawing in Zix's scent. Then, very gently, the horse huffed out a breath that ruffled Zix's chromatic organs. "He's greeting you," Sarah said softly. Zix reached out, his hand impossibly small against the horse's face, and touched the soft nose. Thunder stood perfectly still, patient, allowing this strange alien creature to make contact. "You're beautiful," Zix whispered in his own language, forgetting for a moment that the translator would render it into galactic standard. Thunder's ear flicked forward, as if he understood. They stayed like that for a long moment, alien and horse, two species from different worlds, sharing a moment of connection across the vast gulf of biological differences. "This is why we keep animals," Sarah said quietly. "Not just for food or work, but for this. For connection. For the reminder that we're not alone on this planet. That we share it with millions of other species, each one adapted to survive, each one deserving of respect." Zix felt something shift inside him. The fear was still there, Earth was undeniably dangerous, that hadn't changed. But underneath the fear, something else was growing. Wonder. "Sarah," he said, still stroking Thunder's nose, "I think I'm beginning to understand." Understand what? Why humans are the way you are. You evolved on a planet that was actively hostile to your survival. Everything here is dangerous. The weather, the fauna, the flora, even the atmosphere is a fire hazard. But instead of just surviving, you thrived. You made friends with wolves. You domesticated prey animals large enough to crush you. You built gardens full of poison plants because you think they're pretty. You turned a death world into a home. Sarah smiled. I guess we did, yeah. That's remarkable. Terrifying, but remarkable. A small creature suddenly darted between Zix'thar's legs, and he yelped, jumping backward. Thunder snorted, apparently the hoarse equivalent of laughter. Sorry, Sarah said, scooping up the creature, a cat, Zix realized with belated recognition. This is Pumpkin. She lives in the barn and keeps the mouse population under control. The cat looked at Zix with slitted yellow eyes, and Zix was suddenly very aware that he was looking at an apex predator, scaled down, but still very much a hunter. Can I touch her? Zix asked. If she lets you. Hold out your hand, let her make the first move. Zix extended his hand, mimicking what he'd done with the sheep. The cat sniffed delicately at his fingers, then, apparently satisfied, rubbed her head against his hand. The purring started immediately, a rumbling vibration that Zix could feel through his suit sensors. She likes you, Sarah said. That's her happy sound. A predator is making happy sounds at me, Zix said, amazed. Predator, yes. But also a friend, if you treat her right. They spent another hour at the petting zoo, and by the time they left, Zix had touched more Earth animals than he'd ever imagined possible. Each one had been unique, different personalities, different behaviors, different ways of interacting with the world. As they walked back toward campus, Zix noticed that he wasn't checking his environmental suit's readouts quite so obsessively. Wasn't tracking every bird as a potential threat. Wasn't flinching at every unexpected sound. He was adapting. Tomorrow's your day off, Sarah said. But I was thinking, if you're interested, maybe we could visit the beach. It's about an hour's drive, but the ocean is really something special. The ocean, Zix repeated. The massive body of water containing organisms adapted to extreme pressure, temperature variations, and chemical compositions hostile to most land-based life. Also, it's very pretty and the waves are soothing, Sarah added. Zix thought about the sheep, the goats, the rabbits, and thunder. He thought about the exploding seed pods and the poison plants and the birds that didn't try to attack him. He thought about how, just maybe, Earth wasn't trying to kill him. It was just being Earth. Yes, he said. I would like to see the ocean. Sarah's smile could have powered a small star. Awesome. Fair warning though, there might be dolphins. They're very friendly, but they're also kind of intense. What's a dolphin? Aquatic mammal. Super intelligent. They're basically the ocean's friendly sociopaths. I'm not sure I understand that classification. Don't worry. You will. The vehicle Sarah called a car was terrifying. They were moving at speeds of over 80 kilometers per hour in a metal box with rubber wheels, navigating through dozens of other vehicles, all driven by humans who apparently trusted each other not to crash despite going fast enough to cause lethal collisions. This is normal? Zix asked, his 3 hearts racing. Traffic's pretty light today, actually, Sarah said, changing lanes with casual ease. Wait until you see rush hour. Zix decided he would never be seeing rush hour if he could possibly avoid it. The landscape changed as they drove. Buildings gave way to rolling hills covered in that uncontrolled vegetation humans called grass. In the distance, Zix could see what Sarah identified as sheep farms, enormous spaces where hundreds of sheep grazed freely. "You let them just wander around?" Zix asked. "Well, there are fences. But yeah, mostly they do what they want. Eat grass, sleep, make more sheep. It's a pretty good life." The idea of allowing livestock to roam freely across kilometers of open land seemed impossibly wasteful to Zix. On Keph, animal husbandry was done in controlled environments with calculated efficiency. But then again, Earth had space to spare. And apparently, humans preferred their animals to be happy. The first indication that they were approaching the ocean was the smell. Even through his environmental suit's filters, Zix could detect it: salt and organic matter and something else, something vast and ancient. "That's the sea air," Sarah said. "People either love it or hate it. No in between." Then they crested a hill, and Zix saw it. The ocean. His first thought was that his sensors must be malfunctioning. Nothing could be that big. Nothing could contain that much water. But it was real. Stretching from horizon to horizon, a vast expanse of blue-green water, constantly moving, waves rolling endlessly toward the shore. The scale of it made Zix's cognitive processes stutter. "It's, how much water is that?" he asked weakly. "This is just the Pacific Ocean," Sarah said. "It covers about 165 million square kilometers. Contains something like 660 million cubic kilometers of water." Zix's translator actually glitched trying to process those numbers. "And things live in there," he said. "Oh yeah. Millions of species. From microscopic plankton to blue whales, the largest animals that have ever existed on Earth. Larger than thunder. A blue whale can weigh 200 tons. Thunder weighs maybe half a ton on a heavy day. That's not possible. And yet." Sarah gestured at the ocean. "Shall we?" They parked in what was called a parking lot, designated space for storing vehicles temporarily, and walked toward the beach. The ground changed from artificial stone to sand, billions of tiny mineral particles, each one worn smooth by the action of water and time. Zix's feet sank slightly with each step, his gravity regulators adjusting to the unstable surface. "Want to take off your boots?" Sarah asked. "The sand feels nice between your toes." "Absolutely not," Zix said firmly. "What if there are parasites? Or burrowing organisms? Or—" "Fair enough. Keep the boots." They walked closer to the water, and Zix could see the waves more clearly now. Each one rose from the ocean, curved gracefully, and then crashed against the shore in a burst of white foam before sliding back into the sea. "What makes them do that?" Zix asked. "Mostly wind and the gravitational pull of the moon. The water is constantly in motion. It's actually really complex: tides, currents, waves. Whole branches of science devoted to understanding it." A wave crashed particularly close, and spray misted through the air. Zix jumped backward, but not before his sensors detected the salinity. "It's salty," he said, surprised. "Very. About 3.5% salt on average. Undrinkable for humans without processing. But the ocean organisms are adapted to it." As if summoned by her words, something moved in the water. A sleek shape, gray and streamlined, breaking the surface for just a moment before disappearing back beneath the waves. "Was that?" Zix asked. "Dolphin," Sarah said excitedly. "They're here." More shapes appeared, a whole group of them, moving parallel to the shore. They leaped from the water in graceful arcs, and Zix could see them more clearly: smooth skin, curved dorsal fins, that distinctive shape he'd seen in the briefing materials. "They're playing," Sarah said. "Dolphins play a lot. They're incredibly intelligent, they have complex social structures, communication systems, even names for each other." "They name themselves?" Zix asked, fascinated despite his nervousness. "Signature whistles, yeah. Each dolphin has a unique sound pattern that functions like a name." One of the dolphins came closer to the shore, close enough that Zix could see its eye, dark, intelligent, curious. It looked at him. And Zix had the distinct impression that he was being evaluated by an intelligence every bit as capable as his own. Just different. Adapted to a completely alien environment, but still aware, still thinking. The dolphin made a series of clicks and whistles, its natural sonar, Sarah explained, echolocation that allowed it to navigate and hunt in the murky ocean depths. Then it performed what could only be described as a backflip and dove back into deeper water. "They're showing off," Sarah said, laughing. "They do that sometimes when there are people watching." They walked along the beach for a while, and Zix's fear gradually transformed into something else. Or respect. The ocean was dangerous, yes. It contained predators, toxic organisms, pressure gradients that would crush most species. But it was also beautiful. Alive. A completely different biosphere adapted to liquid instead of air, darkness instead of light, pressure instead of open space. "There are more things living in Earth's oceans than on many entire planets," Zix said quietly. "Probably true. We've only explored about 5% of the ocean floor. There are likely thousands of species we haven't even discovered yet. Your own planet is still a mystery to you. Makes it interesting. Always something new to learn." They found a spot on the beach and sat, Zix carefully, making sure no organisms were lurking beneath the sand first. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. "Another thing that could kill me," Zix noted, looking at the sun. "What, the sunset?" "Ultraviolet radiation. Solar output variations. Magnetic field fluctuations. Your star is a ball of nuclear fusion, and you just sit beneath it." "Well, yeah. It's also what makes life possible. Photosynthesis. Heat. The water cycle. Vitamin D synthesis. We'd die without it. You die with it too, if you stayed exposed too long. Your briefing materials mentioned sunburn. True. Balance in all things." Sarah drew a pattern in the sand with her finger. "Zix, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What's Keph like?" "Your homeworld." Zix thought about how to describe it. "Safe," he said finally. "Stable. We've controlled our environment for thousands of years. Weather is managed. Dangerous organisms were removed or genetically modified into harmless forms. Gravity is low. The atmosphere is gentle. Nothing unexpected happens. Sounds nice." "It is. It's very nice." Zix paused. "It's also boring." Sarah looked at him, surprised. "Don't misunderstand," Zix continued. "I love Keph. It's my home. But since arriving on Earth, I've realized something. We Kephians removed all the danger, but we also removed all the vitality. Everything is so controlled that nothing truly wild exists anymore. We optimized ourselves into a very comfortable, very safe, very bland existence." He looked out at the ocean, watching the waves that had been rolling for millions of years before Kephians even evolved. "Earth is terrifying," Zix said. "But it's also alive in a way Keph isn't. Your planet pushes back. It challenges you. And you rise to meet those challenges. Sometimes, Sarah said. Other times we invent air conditioning and stay inside. Zix'thar's translator tried to process air conditioning and came up with artificial climate manipulation, which was actually accurate. But you have the option to do both, Zix said. To challenge yourselves or to rest. To face danger or to create safety. You have choices. I guess we do. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun sank lower, the waves providing a rhythmic soundtrack. Zix noticed that he was no longer constantly monitoring his environmental suit, no longer tracking every sound for potential threats. He was simply being. On a beach. On Earth. On a Deathworld that was slowly becoming less frightening and more fascinating. Thank you, Zix said quietly. For what? For being patient with me. For showing me your world. For not laughing too hard when I panicked at the chickens. Sarah grinned. I did laugh a little. I noticed. In my defense, the way you jumped was pretty funny. They're dinosaur descendants. So am I, technically. All birds and mammals share a distant reptilian ancestor. That's not the same and you know it. They laughed together, and Zix realized that somewhere over the past few days, he'd stopped thinking of Sarah as a dangerous Deathworlder and started thinking of her as a friend. A human friend. On a human world. Who was showing him wonders he'd never imagined. What's the plan for tomorrow? Zix asked. I was thinking the Natural History Museum. They have an excellent section on Earth's evolutionary history. Dinosaur fossils, extinction events, the development of mammals. Figured it might be interesting for a xenobiologist. Extinct organisms are much safer than living ones, Zix observed. That's the spirit. As they walked back to the car, Zix turned for one last look at the ocean. In the fading light, he could see the shapes of dolphins still playing in the surf, their bodies creating phosphorescent trails in the water, bioluminescence from microscopic organisms disturbed by their passage. Life. Everywhere. In the water, in the air, in the sand beneath his feet. Adapted, thriving, continuing the ancient dance of evolution that had been playing out on this world for billions of years. Zix pulled out his datapad and added to his log. Day 4 on Earth, survived ocean exposure. Encountered dolphins, friendly aquatic mammals with intelligence comparable to many sapient species. Observed sunset over Pacific Ocean. I'm beginning to understand why humans are so protective of their dangerous, beautiful, utterly impossible world. It's not just their home. It's part of who they are. He paused, then added, the survival probability was 78%. I think I might actually make it. Outside the car window, the last light faded from the sky, and stars began to appear, Earth stars, filtered through an atmosphere rich enough in oxygen to burn, viewed from a world that had spent billions of years becoming the most successful experiment in adaptive biology the galaxy had ever produced. And Zix was going to spend the next 26 days learning everything he could about it. Assuming the chickens didn't get him first.